notice that I'm in a completely different outfit, and this is a completely different setup than the intro of this video. The reason for that is this video has taken me months. In fact, the only reason that I have even gotten around to doing it is because I gave it to myself as a homework assignment. Literally, I'm in college, so I had a project that I had to do on English studies, and I realized that this would be a perfect thing to discuss for said project. So I made it my project. So if you're tuning in for my English class, welcome. If you're not, welcome. Either way, welcome. I have with me, in these two bags, 16 books. Some of which I have already put post-it notes on. So you may see me pause to take the post-it notes off of some so that you can see them. Is this going to be a pain in the butt? Probably. Am I going to do it anyway? Yes. The first book that sparked this whole thing is a very political book called Anti-Racist Baby. Now, relevant disclaimer. I do not only have a problem with this book. There are several books out there, among them being Sophie Votes Republican, Why Mommy is a Democrat, Donald and the Fake News, etc. There's a lot. But this book was the first one I ever saw. This one and Feminist Baby. But I couldn't get a hold of that one, so we're going with this one. This book's target audience is 0 to 4. I promised myself I would stay calm. So, Jess, what's the problem here? There are milestones, guidelines, actually, of what not children's books, but children should learn at a certain age. Patterns, colors, shapes, sizes, opposites, things like their numbers, the alphabet. Not this. There are so many words in this book that are never, ever, 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 ever defined. One of those words is racism. I have many, many problems with this book. There are some good things about it, but the things that are problematic far outweigh the good things, in my opinion. If you have a different perspective, I would love to hear it, but I have done a lot of research, and I'm still not really okay with this book. That is just my opinion. Take it how you will. So, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 17 post-it notes that I stuck on my fridge, so you didn't have to see them. And I'm going to try not to go on a 45-minute rant about this book. Shall we?
I've started dancing now. Once we've started, we can't stop, see?
We begin. Okay. So, these are not organized now, but it's okay. I think I know where they go. First and foremost, this book was written by someone that you might have heard of, you might not have heard of, but he is very active activist, I believe. And his whole goal is to educate everyone about racism, which I don't have a problem with. Racism is bad, okay? I understand that. I do not have a problem with that. I have a problem with how it is handled in this book. If in fact this was not a cash grab meant to get adults to look at the book, because let's face it, children don't have much of a choice in what they get to read this young, because they can't read the covers, so they have no clue. And parents often pick out books, and the kid has no say in it. And that's not a bad thing. But I lost my train of thought. There were people like rattling a door. Did I mention I live at a college? I'm in a dorm, so the execution of it. If in fact this is not a cash grab for adults, then what I believe happened is this author and this illustrator got so passionate, and it's fine. I admire it. It's great. You are so passionate about this. That they forgot their audience. And that is a huge problem. In the back of this book, Ibram, I don't know how to say his name, X Kendi, we're going to call him that. If I'm saying it wrong, please correct me. Please. Because I like saying people's names right. Has a whole thing. He has these 2 pages loaded full of information. And here's the thing. A lot of this information should have went in the book. If, in fact, this is something that he feels had to be handled. For example, ask your child, when you imagine a farmer, a teacher, or an astronaut, what do they look like? You might find the kids default to white authority figures in their imaginations. Ask them about why this might be so. So, he could have said, I don't know. I don't really know. But there's something there. But this one, I do get. It is a fallacy that children are colorblind. Help your child explicitly name the race of the people around them, so they understand it is not insulting or harmful to do so. We want to normalize discussions about race and remove the stigma around these conversations. That's good. He kind of touches on it with point number 1, open your eyes to all skin colors. But here's the thing about children's books. You don't have to be this obvious. Within a children's book, you can put so much in 32 pages, because that's the standard length of a children's book. 32 pages, and the flyleaves, I believe, count as those pages too. Believe it or not. So it's closer to like 30. And you do that by telling a story. Tell me a story about a kid that meets another person who's different from them. Have them ask their parents. Maybe have their parents discuss it. There are ways to embed a topic like this within a story that maybe not. Maybe they won't get it right away. But here's the thing. They're definitely not going to get it if you put it in words that they don't understand. This is one example. Again, there are Republican examples. Unfortunately, I only found 2 explicitly Democrat examples and some more subtle Republican examples. I did also find more subtle Democrat examples. Also, like I mentioned, I have 16 books. The second book that I haven't even put post-it notes on yet, not really anyway, because I can't get past the promise of a cat and not being able to find it on a certain page. And it makes me sad. Where did it go? Uh-oh, Becky. Ha, ha. A is for activist. It is by, oh boy, Inosanto Nagara. I think I said that right. Again, please correct me if I'm wrong. I really like saying people's names right. It feels disrespectful to say them wrong, even if I don't know how to say it. Please tell me if you find the cat on this page. Please? I cannot find the cat. The reason I have not marked this book is because it has the exact same problem, if not worse, than Anti-Racist Baby. Written for 3 to 5 year olds. Again, guidelines. Certain age, they should be learning certain things. Granted, this is an alphabet book. They're not going to know what any of these words mean. Not a single one. Activist, advocate, abolitionist, ally. Action. Not a 3-year-old. 3-year-old's not going to know this. Corporate. Democracy. Dictator. They're not going to know what justice means. Feminist. Nutrients. And there's a lot of words in here that I admire for the inclusion of the author's, what's the word? Language, I'm assuming it's her language. I don't know. Or his language. I'm not sure. I still have no clue. I bring the authors. And there's definitely potential. But it's small. Once again, if this is not a cash grab, then this author got so caught up and passionate in their politics that they forgot who they were writing for. Like before, you notice I haven't dove into that yet. Why? Because we'll get back to it. I almost fell. That would have been really bad. So, Anti-Racist Baby was written for 0 to 4. One moment, please. These books that I have gathered are my good examples. Why? Because it's important that you see the difference. Animal opposites. 1 sentence per page. Opposites. Simple. Animals. Who doesn't love those? Opposites. Perfect for their age. Older kids will start learning their animals. Younger kids will learn their opposites. Hot, cold, soft and hard shell, etc. And then this. Cougar is awake. Burrowing owl is awake too. But koala is sound asleep. Now the thing is, for little kids, that's funny. Why? I don't know. They think it's silly when somebody just falls asleep. Plus, it's a simple, soothing book that will soothe them to sleep. At some point. However many times you have to read it, I don't know. But, for one, real quick, now I'm not saying the spinning words is bad. I'm saying the vocabulary chosen is the problem. The big words is the problem. As I will explain in a minute, at this young, the simplest swap of one number changes how much words they will listen to, how many words they will listen to per page. This one, you'll notice I have a post-it note here. Notice how simple a 0 to 3 book is. Anti-racist baby uses words that only a prodigy would understand. And even then. This book is written for 1 to 3. It's written by Eric Carle. If you don't know him, I don't know how, he wrote The Very Hungry Caterpillar. The Very Hungry Caterpillar is curious. Why is it hot? Let's find out. This is the Earth. I forgot to take my post-it notes off. I'm just gonna stick that to my pants. People, animals, and plants live here. This is the sun. The sun is very, very hot. It feels hotter in the daytime than at night. Why? Heat from the sun reaches the Earth. The Earth spins around. Every part of it has a turn to get warm. The part that faces the sun is warmer and bright. The part that faces away is cooler and dark. Now the very hungry caterpillar knows why it is hot. And you do too. It's a very simple book. And the reason that there was a post-it on this page is because I wanted to point out how Eric Carle lays the foundation of what seems basic. The Earth, the sun, daytime, night. Even in his art, there's a difference. Why? Well, for younger kids, this is brand new. If they ask, Mommy, why is it so hot outside? Apologies. Sometimes I like to do voices. Anyway, and they say, hey, Mommy, why is it so hot outside? Then we can introduce a younger kid to the sun makes things hot. Simple, to the point. That's all they're really going to get out of the book. It's the sun. Then, as you get older, hey, Mommy, why is it so hot? They're going to want more than just the sun. Yeah, but why? But what does the sun, what does this have to do with anything? So then, he explains deeper. So they need the review of the Earth and the sun when they get older, so that they can understand the more complex topic. So that's why this book is written the way it is. And is age appropriate for 1 to 3. Now, this book is also 1 to 3. I'm not sure where my post-it note went, but it's okay. Might even be baby to 3. Up, 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 down. On. I did it again. Off. Now, the butt. Post-it. This is not weird. For some reason, kids think butts are hilarious. They don't carry the same meaning to a kid as to us. For them, it's just silly. I mean, if you remember, farts are funny, potty words are funny, that stage. Hurry, 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 slow down. Can't. Make, break. Again, kids like to break things. Yum, 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 yuck. Yay, 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 uh-oh. I did it again. Sad, sad, sad. better. Notice, even though technically the opposite of sad is happy, this author is demonstrating a principle, a deeper meaning that maybe you won't get when you're younger, but you will start to get as you get, 2, 3 years old. That just because you get a hug from mommy or daddy does not mean that you have to instantly feel all better. You don't have to be happy. You can just be a little bit better. That's a deep topic for a kid's book. That you don't have to just instantly be happy. How many of us struggle with that as adults? This is what I mean. Within a story, which is basically what this is. It's a child's day. Child's never given a name, but it's the child's day. And have captured a deeper point. And then they just keep going. Fun, 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 fun! Again, but kids think it's funny. Don't question it, just roll with it. All done. And then the book's over. That's the other thing. That is one thing Anti-Racist Baby did well. Kids like to know when the end is there. So they know that it's over and they can be okay with that. Move on. Now, this book is a valiant effort for 0 to 3. Truly. But it's still not quite there. It starts out okay. And that's also why I have the Eric Carle book, is because this is how you explain a topic for 1 to 3 or 0 to 3, which is the age group of this book. You start simple. So they started out okay, rainforest. And then they just keep getting more and more and more and more and more and more complex until eventually you get a page that looks like this. Now, I don't know about you, but a page that looks like this with more text in it would be very overwhelming for a kid that young. I know because I have a niece that is that young, and she would shut a book like this so quick. You would get to maybe here if you were lucky. And she would be distracted playing with something else. That's not necessarily an insult. As they get older, they might appreciate this book. I'd argue the age group should be 4 to 6. The reason is, a kid's attention span is 2 seconds. If you don't capture their attention within that 2 seconds and captivate them within that 2 seconds, they're gone. They don't care. That's also why Anti-Racist Baby is problematic. They're not gonna care. You have to make them care. Just like an adult, you have to make them care for them to stick around and watch a video. Now, I mentioned that even the subtlest swap in an age group changes entirely, drastically, how a book is written. And I have 2 books that demonstrate this beautifully. Now, the first book is written for baby to 3-year-olds. It is called Beatrix Potter Wrote Stories, and it talks about Beatrix Potter. Notice the simplicity, how it's so simple and straightforward. The vocabulary is simple. Ran wild in the wood. And it's a little silly. Beatrix grew up with correct Victorian habits, except when she studied mushrooms and wrote stories about rabbits. That's how the whole book is structured. Because repetition. Kids like repetition. Why? Again, I don't know. Just roll with it. Beatrix lived in a city with carriages and busy streets, except when she bought a farm with chickens, ponies, cows, and sheep. Beatrix bought more land that she left to the National Trust, and we still read the little stories she wrote for all of us. This book is written for 0 to 3. Is it perfect? No. But it's pretty good. It's simple, it's to the point. This book, on the other hand, is for ages 2 to 5. Still simple. That's important. Kids' books need to be simple. Not because they are dumber or anything like that. It's the attention span. They're not going to listen to a whole paragraph. They want a sentence and they're bored of the picture and they want to see the next picture. So, this book has a couple sentences per page, and you'll notice that down here is a little extra information for when they get older and they're curious about more. And that is the same on every page. 2 sentences, extra information. And the other thing, kids like to follow lines. It gives them practice with their fine motor skills, and it holds their attention. If they have to follow the line with their finger, by the time they get over here, you're ready to turn the page, typically. Especially on a page like this one, where it's going to take them a minute to find how to get turned around here. So, it's still simple, but, even here, they took a risk. There's 4 sentences. But they're still simple. One day you will leap, one day you will fly. One day you will soar, you will take your dreams so high. Rise, rise, my little pilot, so soon you will be running. Whatever your dream is, chase it. Your greatest flight is coming. And for the older kids, the end says, I'm Amelia Earhart, and I know no bounds. So, simple little age swap, drastic difference. It's key. It's important. This book has a good idea, but keeping the kids engaged and turning the page at the same time to the next part is a little tricky. So, I'm going to try not to go into every single book I got, but if you want me to, I gladly will. I love them. Now, a few others I got. Oh my goodness, I dropped it. There's another little thingy about Amelia Earhart. I was wondering where that went. This one shows you how to write for a little bit of an older audience, 4 to 7. This is the age group that maybe, possibly, anti-racist babies should have been striving to hit. This is where you start introducing bigger words, but you define what they are. Maybe not right away. So this book, there's a big long note that you don't have to read, is illustrated of the King James Version, which admittedly is hard, of the Lord's Prayer. But it doesn't just stay this way. So it keeps the kids engaged, and then when they're older and they start asking questions, I queued it again. I changed the tune just in case. That was intentional. Anyway, this book breaks it down. Our Father which art in heaven. It says, God is my Father in heaven who made me. He will always love me. He will never leave me, so I will never be lonely. Simple, to the point. Thank you, God, for loving me. That's the point of that sentence. And it goes through and it breaks down every little section in just 2 little pages. Sorry, 4 little pages. And then you've got the full prayer. As kids get older, more words can be put on a page to keep their attention at the same time. Because their attention spans are no longer, that was a bad snap. That was still a bad snap. That was a better snap. There we go. They're no longer so short. They're a little bit longer. You can keep their attention a bit longer as they get older. You can include more words. Then I got this one. It is by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, which at first I thought, okay, this might be a problem. This is why it's important not to judge a book by its cover. This book is so sweet. It's written for 3 to 7-year-olds. It's called The Little Book of Joy, and it talks about how different the lives of the Archbishop and the Dalai Lama were. One of us grew up in a little house, one of us grew up in a big house, but then also how similar their lives were. Often we were sad and lonely. Both of us wished for a friend. And it goes through different things. And it says, if you just focus on the thing that is making you sad, then the sadness is all you see. But if you look around, you will see that joy is everywhere. And it starts going, joy is the warm, tingly feeling of the sun tickling your toes in the morning. It's the giggly, squiggly feeling of when you're doing something silly. And it just keeps going like that. And it teaches kids how to look for joy in a world where it feels sad sometimes. And it tells them that, like, when you have joy and you share more joy, you feel better. It says, we discovered that the more joy we shared, the more joy we had. And the more joy we had, the more joy we could share. It's a beautiful book. I kid you not, I almost cried. Granted, I'm a very emotional person. Also, that's such a sweet photo. But yeah. Notice though, that they still kept it simple because of that 3. Little difference in numbers, drastic difference in how they write a story. Not as much new vocabulary. It's more so a more difficult topic. I just dropped a book. This one, I don't necessarily agree with the topic. However, they executed it so well that I'm not mad. I'm genuinely not. They defined everything. Every word that seems complex, they broke it down. Now I still have post-it notes because I do still have critiques, obviously. For example, this page is a lot. I get that it's the author's style to have a bunch of different patterns, but this is just too many for my eyes. And maybe a 4 to 8-year-old would be okay, but I feel like a 4-year-old wouldn't be as big of a fan of this page in particular, because it's a lot. And they get easily overwhelmed. So, but overall, if you want to handle a topic that you're deeply passionate about to younger kids, this is how you do it. Don't agree with the topic, do agree with the execution. Beautiful execution. Obviously, still some critiques. This one, I haven't looked too deeply at yet, but I also have this one. And it's 3 to 8 years old. And again, you can see that it's still kept simple. It teaches the colors to the younger kid. You can say, what color is that? And they can go red. You can say, what color is that? And they can go purple. So on and so forth. And you can teach the young kids colors, and then as they get older, you can read them the story. That's the basis behind this book. That's another approach that those other books could have taken. Don't worry, I have more. This one, the target is girls aged 3 to 5. And it talks about why boys and girls are different. It talks about what children need to know about sex in a simple, to the point. I'm trying to skip over a page on purpose because it is very detailed. It's not too detailed, but it's enough. One second. Let me just find it. It's enough for a kid to understand it, but I still don't really want to show it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's what the topic is. It's just not my topic. But there is a nice little inclusion of a demonstration of families, of different families, although I do wish they had worked the different families part in a little bit more. Oh, fudge, I passed it. I wish they had worked different families in a bit more. Try not to get copyrighted while also being a little silly. Sorry if I just pushed you. I know it is this page. So you'll see it's a lot of different families. And they're all very different in very different ways. And I do wish they had incorporated these families maybe into some later pages, like of the church, perhaps. They might have. Like I said, I haven't done as deep of a dive into these ones as I wanted to. But I'm getting there. I swear I saw a single father somewhere. Maybe not. And then there's a little note at the end that talks about how it's important to understand that this may not actually be the question kids are asking. They said that, remember the old joke? Hannah asks Mom, where did I come from? Mom gives a carefully pre-planned lecture on reproduction. Hannah looks bored. It turns out her best friend came from Memphis, and Hannah just wants to know what city she came from. In my humble opinion, this page should have went first. If nothing else, because of that line. Just in case, just in case they weren't ready. Yeah, you can see I could have swore there was a single dad and his son somewhere in here. One second while I try to find it. Aha! I knew it! Some families are small, and it's just a dad and his son. Yeah. And some families are big. But you can see how it's still simple, but also gets more into detail for the older kids when they actually really want to know. If a 3-year-old really wants to know, they'll sit and listen to the whole book. If not, they'll get bored and they'll leave. This book cracks me up. It might just be me, but it's funny. Paul writes a letter. If you don't know anything about the Bible, Paul wrote the book of Acts in the New Testament. And he kind of gets straight to the point. A lot. So he wrote a bunch of letters to a bunch of different churches. And one of those churches was Corinth. And this is where I think that this book executes Paul well. Dear friends in Corinth, don't be old lumps of bread. Be new lumps of bread. And then it goes and it talks about there's faith, hope, and love. The greatest of these is love. The wording is a little weird there because it says caring for others. And then later on it uses love for the rest of the time. So maybe it was defining it. I'm not sure. But there's other bits where the wording is a little weird. My earlier letter upset you. Good. Sometimes we need to be upset. I wrote as I did because I care about you. There's more, don't worry. You reap what you sow. If you begin something out of badness, badness will grow. And if you begin something out of goodness, goodness will grow. Please don't bother me if you don't like this letter. Paul. I find that funny, because that's Paul in a nutshell. In Thessalonica, dear friends in Thessalonica, study and be quiet. Do your own business. Work with your own hands, comfort the timid, help the weak. Please share this letter, Paul. Dear friends in Thessalonica, now I hear some of you are busybodies. Please stop that and quietly get back to your own work. Peace, Paul. Actually, these are... My bad. I don't know why I said Acts. It's actually just the letters he wrote. He wrote a lot of them. Romans. There's bits in Romans. 1 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians. Galatians. Ephesians. He wrote a lot of them. Philippians. Colossians. 1 Thessalonians. 2 Thessalonians. 1 Timothy. 2 Timothy. Titus. Philemon. And then this person wrote as if Paul wrote Hebrews. Now the thing is, how can I access that page? Nope, never mind. This is the page for Hebrews. He does mention some biblical scholars doubt that Paul wrote Hebrews. Who did? We don't know who did for certain. I've chosen the parts that sound like Paul to me. And believe me or believe me not, this one man, Paul, by writing letters to his friends, changed the world. That is why some people call him St. Paul. He also introduces the topic of death. Granted, like I said, this is an older audience. But there might be a younger kid that faces death too. There's books on that. There's books on just about everything. The books themselves are not my problem. I'm all for free speech. Because if your speech isn't free, then why should I expect mine to be? That rhymes. I wasn't intending it to be. To rhyme. Anyway. But he mentions Paul was killed by his jailers with a sword. So, and he says his symbols in art are a sword and a book. So when people draw stuff about Paul, it's a sword and a book, I guess. But I think it's funny, honestly. I think it's a funny little book. That's why it's in here. I have saved my absolute favorite for last. I have read this book since I was a kid. I stumbled across it in a tote of my brother's stuff, and I basically claimed it as mine. When I got older, I put it away because I thought I was too old to be reading that stuff, and I pulled it back out when my niece was old enough, and she absolutely loves it. Cannot get a video of her reading it with me because her mom is a photographer, and that girl just senses it, and she's like, no thanks. So, yeah, but I promise you, she loves this book. Now, this book is called The Napping House. I'm going to pull this off if you don't mind. I love this book. I practically have this book memorized. Let me just take off the post-it notes that block your ability to see. 1 second. Maya. Are we still recording? Cool. About you? Yeah, we still good. The Napping House. Practically my whole fridge is covered in post-it notes. Ah! I'll fix that later. Because I love this book. And it took me a very long time, to find flaws in it because I love this book so much. But there are flaws, and I will point them out to you. Don't worry. But not right now. Right now, I just want you to enjoy The Napping House. Ignore that. Something really cool I wanted to point out first. The original paintings were done in oil on pressed board. There is a house, a napping house, where everyone is sleeping. If I can turn the page, I'm gonna stand right here, actually. And in that house, there is a bed. No, actually. The napping house. Ignore all that. If you look right here, it says The Napping House on the mailbox. Also, really cool thing, the original paintings were done in oil on pressed board, which I think is so cool. There is a house, a napping house, where everyone is sleeping. And in that house, there is a bed, a cozy bed, in a napping house, where everyone is sleeping. And on that bed, there is a granny, a snoring granny, on a cozy bed, in a napping house, where everyone is sleeping. And on that granny, there is a child, a dreaming child, on a snoring granny, on a cozy bed, in a napping house. Everyone is sleeping. And on that child, there is a dog, a dozing dog, on a dreaming child, on a snoring granny, on a cozy bed, in a napping house, where everyone is sleeping. And on that dog, there is a cat, a snoozing cat, on a dozing dog, on a dreaming child, on a snoring granny, on a cozy bed, in a napping house, where everyone is sleeping. And on that cat, there is a mouse, a slumbering mouse, on a snoozing cat, on a dozing dog, on a dreaming child, on a snoring granny, on a cozy bed, in a napping house, where everyone is sleeping. And on that mouse, there is a flea. Can it be a wakeful flea? On a slumbering mouse, on a snoozing cat, on a dozing dog, on a dreaming child, on a snoring granny, on a cozy bed, in a napping house where everyone is sleeping. A wakeful flea who bites the mouse, who scares the cat, who claws the dog, who thumps the child, who bumps the granny, who breaks the bed, in the napping house where no one now is sleeping. So, why do I love this book so much? Well, when I was a kid, plot twist. Funny. Loved it. Now that I'm older, the plot twist. I love it. Here's why. There is a concept that, I don't know, maybe you've heard about, maybe you haven't. Either way, we're going to do a little game called Review. It is known as, I'm going to try to make this as big as humanly possible here, Freytag's Pyramid. Now, Freytag's Pyramid is meant for narrative stories. And basically, you have your exposition. Oh my goodness. Your exposition, your inciting incident, your rising action, climax, or climactic event, whatever you want to call it, your falling action, and your resolution, or your, I believe I'm fixing to say this right, but I don't know for certain.
Editor Jess here. I did not say it right, and probably won't say it right if I try to say it, so Google.
Denouement.
That.
Denouement. Never mind. We called it the denouement because we're American and really bad at French. It's got a lot of vowels in it, but let me see if I can spell it. Denouement. Possibly. I don't know. It's something like that. You get the point. I can say it in my head, but I go to say it out loud and it's not working. So, and I promise you I'm saying it correctly in my head because I'm like, oh, I've got it now. And then it doesn't come out right. So, for some reason, my markers aren't very nice. And so I have like 2 that'll show up well enough for you to see them on a camera that are thick enough for you to see them on a camera. So your exposition, don't kill me. I'm in a race on this now. So your exposition, this bit, exposition, that is where you get introduced to your plot. No, sorry, this is the plot. Fifth experiment makes up the whole plot of a story. Your characters, your conflict, your setting, theme, eventually will come about toward the end, I believe. Okay, so you're going to introduce your characters, your conflict, and your setting, all in the beginning. So we have our characters. We have dog, cat, granny, doing these out of order, so sorry. Child, mouse, flea. That should be all of them. Let me check real quick. Granny, child, cat. Yes. So, these are all of our characters. Our conflict is everyone is sleeping. But, if you notice, you can see that everyone is actually kind of struggling to sleep. See? So everyone's kind of struggling to sleep. So that's our conflict. And our setting is the napping house. Now, the thing about the napping house that I recently learned, and it's really cool, is this book was written based on Audrey Wood and Don Wood's kid. They said when he was younger, which is when they wrote this, they could not, and they tried everything, could not get him to nap at their house. But one of their moms, I forget which one, lived a few minutes away. And so they'd walk their kid during nap time, during the day, over to her house because she liked to take naps. And so he would go and take naps at her house. And so then they created this silly little book. Just because. And the kid loves it. And the woman that Granny is based on absolutely loves it. And I love it. But I'm biased. So. But I guess they're kind of biased too. Yeah. So that's your exposition. Then you have... I'm going to try to actually use this and make it work. Sure. Your in See, this is the problem. It's very skinny. But you know what I'm saying, so it should be okay. Your inciting incident, and that is when the child gets up. It's actually not when the flea moves, because you can actually see the flea moving. I can actually try to get that off with a buttery thing. This is actually a buttery marker, but I ordered the wrong size tips. So, then we have, I already forgot what color I used, I'm so sorry. The rising action. The rising action is everything that happens up until the flea lands on the mouse. Then we have the climax, which is when the flea lands on the mouse. That moment is the flea gonna bite the mouse? Is the flea gonna fall asleep? Leave the mouse alone? What's gonna happen? The kid's not gonna actually know. It's gonna be an exciting little bit. It's a plot twist. The plot twist is that the flea is awake in the first place. Because every creature up until then has been napping. Then you have your falling action. That's usually very short. It's just a nice little bit where everything wraps up. Now, they've taken their falling action and expanded it, not for any particular reason, other than that it makes it an interesting story where you get to see it builds up this big long paragraph that a kid's actually willing to sit and listen to because it repeats itself. But then suddenly, it's not repeating itself anymore. So they have to go back to shorter sentences. Wakeful flea who bites the mouse, who scares the cat, etc. And it's such simple little sentences. Also, the lighting's getting brighter. That's the other reason I did it. It's so that eventually they can have this bright, cheery page, and then tone it down a little and have another bright, cheery page, and then the book is over. And that's the resolution, is when in the napping house where no one now is sleeping. That's your resolution. So, that's number one reason why I like this book. Number two, the consistency, okay? It is so consistent to the best of an artist's ability. Oh my gosh, okay? So, if you remember, the original paintings were done in oil on pressed board, right? Okay, so, number one thing. On this mailbox, you probably can't see it, but I will include pictures of this book later. It says The Napping House. At the end of the book, it no longer says The Napping House, which seems like an inconsistent thing, but someone pointed out to me it could be because no one's napping anymore. So that's cool. There's two handles here. There's two handles here. There's two handles here. Consistency. But by far, the absolute coolest consistent thing is this gosh darn pesky little flea. He's on every page. From here on, he is on every page. Right there. On Granny's little thing. And in the board book version, they have actually made that more visible, which is really great. They also put him on the mailbox on this page in the board book, about right there, which is really cool. If that's not cool, I don't know what is. So, Let me see if I have discussed anything or forgotten to discuss anything. There's also, as the book puts it in the little front flap thing, I don't know what to call it right now, an essence of rhymes through synonyms. Let me flip to the page with the most synonyms, shall we? We have slumbering, snoozing, dozing, dreaming, snoring, napping. They're all asleep. It's synonyms. And then there is an actual rhyme later on, and I don't know if it's intentional or not. Perhaps it is, perhaps it's not. Thumps the child, bumps the granny. Thumps, bumps. So, there's that. So there's an essence of rhyming, but it's not actually rhyming, which is nice, because when I was younger, I thought that every children's book had to rhyme, and I struggled with rhyming. So I was like, well, I can never write a children's book then, because I can't naturally rhyme to save my life. It happens completely on accident, about once every blue moon, and I won't even notice at first. Another thing, though, there's shadows, there's reflections, and I could do a whole deep dive on this book, but I won't. But I am going to point that out because I find it really cool. There's the shadow of the cat. There's the dog's feet reflected in the mirror. There's the child's body reflected in the mirror. And also the child's shadow down here on the wall. The book gradually gets lighter. It gradually stops raining. So on and so forth, etc. I love this book. I hope now you can see the children's books are not as simple as they appear. There's so much going on that you don't even realize until you take a deeper dive into them. And I hope that maybe this helped you appreciate them a bit more and realize they're not as easy to write as they look. I love you all. Have a good day. Goodbye. Twinkly fingers.